When it comes to side-scrolling platforming beat-em-ups on the NES, today's game is often regarded as one of the best at what it does, and there are good reasons for that. Shatterhand released in North America on the NES in December of 1991, but just 2 months earlier, the original version released in Japan on the Famicom and was actually based on a Japanese live-action superhero sci-fi television series produced by Toei called Super Rescue Soul Brain. The show centers around a police chief who creates a squad of high-tech special force police, led by one who can plus up or transform into various forms. So the Japanese version of Shatterhand, Tokyu Shiri Soul Brain, I think, is a little bit different from North America Shatterhand for that reason. The Japanese version has more cutscenes filled with story, and the base character sprite is different. So let's check out Shatterhand on the NES. The fun in this one stems from the different satellite robots you can deploy to help you out. But starting out, you can just punch enemies with Shatterhand's fist as an attack. Punching boxes will reveal one of 2 letters, appearing as an alpha or a beta on screen, but described in the manual as either a letter B or a letter L. I'm not clear why, neither of the letters look like an L to me. Either way, depending on the order you pick these up, the combinations will give you a different satellite robot to help. For example, if you pick up 3 alphas, you get the Yobo bot that fires a large bouncing ball that acts like a yo-yo. If you pick them up in the order of alpha, beta, alpha, you get the sword bot, which just swings a sword. With other orders of the letters, you can get a laser beam attack, grenades, a ricocheting fireball, a flamethrower, and a bouncing ball of fire. You're basically dealing with fire and lasers, but some of these attacks are better than others depending on the situation and sometimes overall. For example, I tend to prefer the attacks with more range over the sword. Unfortunately, your robot pals can't live forever, so if they take a good amount of damage, they'll disappear. The game controls pretty well. There's some mild platforming here, but nothing too frustrating. It always feels pretty fair. Everything you do here is pretty satisfying, and it's all quite forgiving. Continues are infinite, and there's a stage selectability after you complete the opening level that allows you to attempt any of the next 5 stages in any order. If you try a stage and die, you'll be brought back here to select a different stage after you continue. You'll fight through 7 total stages: the opening stage, the 5 middle ones, and a final stage. Most of the game takes place in industrial zones or dilapidated areas. You're in a factory, a refinery, a submarine, a filtration plant, a ravaged city. You get the idea. Each stage ends in a boss fight, and each of those are pretty unique and fun. The bosses are going to be easier if you have a satellite buddy on hand, or if you are in your super suit. Oh yeah, what's a super suit? It's freaking awesome. If you pick up the same combination of letters twice, you'll transform into an invincible, super bad-A, flame-shooting RoboCop hell-bent on destruction, but it only lasts temporarily. An on-screen timer appears above to remind you that nothing truly amazing ever lasts long. As you play the game, you'll pick up some coins from enemies or exploded objects, and unlike Mario, where you just fill your pockets with these things to impress Peach and maybe get an extra life out of it, the currency in Shatterhand comes in handy a few different ways. One of those is, yes, for an extra life, but as you play, you'll see these platforms with numbers below them. The numbers below is how much it costs to use that platform. There's a platform for more health, one for more powerful punches, and an expensive one for that extra life. What is this Shatterhand fella even doing out here? As the very long story goes, it's the year 2030, just around the corner. Medical technology is to a point where missing limbs can be replaced with cybernetic devices. A subversive group of scientists performing these procedures get together and decide, hey, we should dominate the world with a cybernetic army. Why not? This is where it gets weird. Enter General Gus Grover, who emerges as leader of the group of ill-intending scientists and assembles some cyborgs and leads a revolt. They become known as the Metal Command. Still with me? An organization known as the Law and Order Regulatory Division, or LORD, is formed, and they get even more scientists together to figure out how to combat this deadly Metal Command. They develop a very special pair of hands. Yep, just some hands, but those hands, when placed on someone, gives them an immense amount of power. They can shatter metal on impact. Meanwhile, In the Bronx, a young police officer named Steve Herman is attacked by a Metal Command cyborg and his ribs and hands are crushed. A Lord official approaches him and asks if he wants to have the strongest hands in the world. Steve, do you want to have the strongest hands in the world? Steve Herman doesn't give it a second thought because having the strongest hands in the world is probably better than having no hands in the world. He accepts his 3-part mission. 1, take a couple of months to heal up. This isn't a routine operation. 2, get used to signing Shatterhand on all your paperwork because you're no longer Steve Herman. And 3, crush the rebellion of cyborgs with those bare cybernetic hands. And some satellite robots if you find them, and that super suit. Shatterhand is an immensely fun NES game. The 8 different satellite robots you can get at your side and the ability to select which level you go to make this one easy to play however you want. Each playthrough can be slightly different because of this, and the experimentation is fun. The infinite continues also ensure you can see the whole thing without bowing out due to some insurmountable frustration or because you made a bad decision with your loadout. I'm having a hard time coming up with something critical to point out, but I just enjoy this one too much, I suppose. Unfortunately, there are no other Shatterhand games or sequels. This is a one-of-a-kind NES experience. That's going to do it for Shatterhand on the NES. As always, remember to wash your hands, especially if they aren't really yours, and thanks for watching.